Afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And good morning for colleagues in Madagascar and UK and colleagues joining from the other part of the world, including in Indonesia. And I would like to say good evening for Professor Jim Folks joining from Canberra. This afternoon from Indonesia, we have the opportunity to see each other through this zoominar to discuss about the sea cucumber cultivation and the aquaculture, and we're going to discuss the experience of this sea cucumbers in Madagascar and in Indonesia. And the objective of this seminar is to share the lesson learned in regards to the Trepang aquaculture or sea cucumbers, both in Indonesia and in Madagascar. And secondly is to connect two community, two nation, that is Indonesia and Madagascar people. As we all know, historically, with the history of Austronesia dispersion, we have a close connection between these two countries or these two areas. So we would like to connect our past connection, which might not be familiar for our young generation. And the second objective of this discussion is to put together all the stakeholders who have an interest in the aquaculture of sandfish or sea cucumbers wherever they are located right now. We have 1 hour, 2 hours. The first 1 hour will be used to discuss the experience on both Indonesia and Madagascar in the sea cucumbers aquaculture. This 1 hour will be split into 4 presentations. The first session would be delivered by our colleague, Harry Lova, who is based in Madagascar. He is a national technical advisor for livelihood of Blue Ventures, and he has been involved in the sandfish aquaculture in Madagascar for a long time. And will be followed by our presentations from Mbak Indah Rufiati and Mas Zulkifli Mangkau. Both are activists, or Mbak Indah is actually the fishery manager from Yayasan Pesisir Lestari, while Zulkifli Mangkau is the field officer of Japesda, who are involved in the sandfish aquaculture. The third presenter will be Mr. Sigit Duwiono. He is one of the pioneer, the hatcher of sunfish in Lipi at that time, with his office in Lombok. But now he has been retired from Lipi, so he continued in hatching business, and he have a plan for sea cucumbers aquaculture in Lombok. He will deliver some more information on that. And last presentation will be from my side. I've been working with Mas Sigit to reconnect the sea cucumbers hatchery that he's building with his team in Lombok to the community. So I will share my experience in doing so. For no further ado, now I would like to invite our colleague Harry Lova to share his experience on sandfish aquaculture in Madagascar. Harry, the time is yours.
Thanks, Deidi, for the introduction, and hello, everyone. As said, I'm Harry Rasafmobuzrepe. I'm currently the National Technical Advisor for Livelihoods for Blue Ventures in Madagascar. In this presentation, I will explain how Blue Ventures community-based sunfish farming was established in Madagascar, and I'll share the results of the activity so far. To begin, it is necessary to talk a bit about Blue Ventures and why it is involved in sunfish farming. Blue Ventures is a UK-based marine conservation NGO, and its mission is to rebuild tropical fisheries with coastal communities. As we know, global fish stocks are depleting, and it is crucial to reduce the pressure on marine resources. Creating alternative sources of income can contribute to reduce this pressure and to address the barriers to engagement in marine management. Fishermen and women involved in alternative livelihood activities do not solely depend on income from fishing activities. When it comes to sea cucumbers, they are marine invertebrates which play an important role in the marine ecosystem as filter feeders. And in the world, there are more than 1,000 species of sea cucumber, of which about 20 are commercially exploited. And one of the most exploited species is Holoturia scabra, also known as sandfish. It is important to emphasize that all sea cucumber species are called Trepang or pêche de mer after processing. And Trepang is considered a delicacy, a healthy food and medicine in Asian market and in China. Sea cucumbers are harvested and traded in more than 70 countries and are an important livelihood for coastal communities. From 2000, the sea cucumber population have collapsed, while the demand for Trepang from China has been increasing. Now let's talk about the development of sunfish farming in Madagascar. The development of sunfish farming began in the late 90s through a partnership between universities and a private company. And from this partnership, the first sunfish hatchery and then the growth phase were developed through pilot projects. The results showed that it was possible to produce juveniles in a hatchery and to successfully grow sunfish to commercial size in sea pens in Madagascar. Blue Ventures started sunfish growth pilots in 2007, but it was in 2009 that the trials were conclusive. Pilots offered the opportunity to learn on a safe scale and also allowed the collection of data to define the technical parameters of the activity. And finally, pilots allowed the community to be involved in the design of a project from the beginning. Based on the results of the pilot activities, sunfish farming was extended to several villages. This diagram shows the basis of the farming model. This model consists of growing sunfish juveniles in a dedicated area of suitable habitat until they reach a marketable size. And the model directly involves the company producing the juvenile sunfish in a hatchery, and that same company buying the adult sunfish and exporting them to the Asian market. Sunfish juveniles are supplied to farmers who grow them under a contract with a private partner. In this contract, it is stipulated the price that will be paid for each adult sunfish when harvesting. The farmers are supported by Blue Ventures in carrying out these activities. The main activities are seeding the juveniles into the pens, securing the stock until harvest, keeping the pens clean, harvesting adult sunfish, and finally processing them. As you may have noticed, some prerequisites are necessary before developing sunfish growth activity. First of all, it is essential to set up a partnership with an existing sunfish hatchery, as well as with buyer. Secondly, without access to a suitable habitat, the activity cannot be carried out, and it is necessary to know beforehand the specific parameters of each site. Then the whole community must be involved in the activity, otherwise the risk of theft would reduce all efforts to nothing. Last but not least, it is important to secure funding until the activity becomes viable. This concludes the first part of my presentation. Let's now move to the second part, in which I will share with you the results of the development of sunfish farming in Madagascar by showing some figures from the last 4 years. In terms of governance, considerable achievement should be noted. Farmers are grouped at the level of the Sunfish Management Committee, which employs professionals to support farmers and which also includes local decision makers to facilitate all social and environmental decisions. Farmers can access their pens once they have signed the lease agreement, which is a document which stipulates all the technical, environmental, and social rules to comply with. Finally, farmers contribute to the payment of a community contribution for developing and conservation activities carried out at the level of the whole community. In terms of environmental results, the farms are safe areas for marine species as they are nautic zones. And studies have also shown that seagrass grow faster in areas with a high population of sunfish. And before being harvested at marketable size, sunfish can reproduce and contribute to the repopulation of species around the farms. So far, 3 farms at 3 different villages have been built with more than 200 active farmers. A 4th site has just been identified for the construction of a new farm. Jobs also have been created at the level of these village farms, and the salaries are paid by the farmers themselves. Over the past 4 years, more than 100,000 pieces of sunfish have been harvested from farms. That is over 40 tons of fresh sunfish, and after processing, it gave about 2.5 tons of trepang. The return rate, which reflects the ratio between the quantity harvested and the quantity stocked, is greater than 40%. In terms of income, over $60,000 was directly generated by the farm, and the average income per farmer per working day is more than $5, knowing that the average income per day per person is less than $1.4 in the country. That means the activity is profitable for the farmers. And this completes the second part of my presentation. Now let's move to the conclusion. To conclude, we can say that community-based sunfish farming in Madagascar is a real opportunity for fishermen because it allows them to have additional income. However, it is necessary to have in place certain prerequisites without which the activity could not be carried out. Finally, we should consider time, funding, and partnership as key issues for the development and replication of this activity. And this concludes my presentation. But before I finish, I would like to thank our many partners and funders. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Harry. That's a nice presentations, very clear, and you consume less than allocated time. Please wait until we end of the all presentation before someone asks your questions. I believe someone will ask you some questions. Okay, let's continue to the second presenters. I would like to invite Mbak Indah and Mas Zulkifli to present their case. Thank you. But Indah, your voice is not on yet.
Yeah, can you see my screen, Pak?
Yes, yes, yes. Please continue.
Okay, wait, let me. Yeah, now my screen is in full mode, Pak Dedi.
Yes, in slideshow.
Oke. Ya, thank you. Selamat sore Pak Dedi, Pak Sigit, dan semua peserta yang hadir.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Pak Dedi, Pak Sigit, and all the other participants. Thank you to the BRIN, the National Research and Innovation, who have facilitated this discussion between Madagascar and Indonesia on the study of sea cucumbers. My name is Indah Rufiati, Fisheries Lead at Yayasan Pesisir Lestari. Together with my colleague Zulkifli Mangkau, the field staff of JAPESDA, our partners in Central Sulawesi. And I will share our presentation in supporting the management of small-scale fisheries, community-based small-scale fisheries in Central Sulawesi. Today, I would like to share with you a brief background. So right now, Yayasan Pesisir Lestari, with our partners all over Indonesia, is working on partnership network supporting community-led fisheries management and marine conservation in Indonesia. So there are 47 village that we have assist, and we work with the local partners because we know the local partners have a strong history in the community. They've been working with the local communities for decades, and they always stay close to the center of the community. So we work with the local partners, providing technical assistance on fisheries management and marine conservation. And our local partners will extend this information to the communities. And now I would like to explain to you about the community-based fisheries management by involving the communities, starting from the governance of fisheries, and this will be used to decide the variable or to identify which data they would like to know. After we collect the data and after we agreed on the data variable, we will assist the community to utilize the fisheries data like the gear on fishing, the individual information, and also the social result of the yield to calculate the income. And to collect this data, we use simple tools using books, ruler, and pencil, and also weight machine. And this data will be collected in a book, and our team will input this data into the software and clarify the missing data. And this data will be checked and revalidated by our MLMT, and then we will create the data visualization and save data interpretation, and we will return it back to our partners for data feedback session or data information to the community. So you can see the process starting from data collection and data feedback session. And next, this data feedback session is a forum where the community will learn how to utilize the collected data, what is the benefit, and how to understand the fisheries sector situation in their village. This data feedback session is organized every 3 months, and this would be a session where both of us and the communities would learn about the fisheries activities in their area. And we facilitate this discussion, and once the community agreed on what project they would implement to support the fishery sector, for instance, if they wish to wait for the sea cucumber species to grow, then we can implement the project. So you can see this is the community-based fisheries management with the local wisdom, and we combine our method by combining the data with the local wisdom that is used in the communities like seasonal calendar. We will help the communities to select the temporary area. For instance, they can choose the location where it's easy to monitor, or location where they can find a big yield, and the location where they can wait for the species to hatch or the location where they let smaller species to grow. And also with time, we will choose the time with the location that have more yield, not with the bad weather, because the bad weather has been covered by the nature itself. Choosing the right location and time would support in the temporary management that is conducted in the community. And we hope to involve the whole communities in throughout the process. It is important for the community to understand how to implement sustainable fisheries and contribute to the sustainability of their livelihood. So in a easy word, we would inform the community that closing a location is like saving their future harvest or first future yield. And we have started this project including in Swadikan village, and it would be shared by my colleague Zul. The community in this village have experienced a community-based fisheries management with octopus species, and they ask our technical assistance in developing Trepang or sea cucumbers aquaculture, because this is also considered another important species aside of octopus. So we started our a project with one species, that is octopus, and we hope the community themselves would develop the learning to other species. And finally, their village would be locally managed marine area. And currently, we are assisting the community in collecting data or to monitor the sea cucumbers produce, like the uh, length, the width, the individual weight, the local name of the sea cucumber species, and the total yield per fisherman, the location of catch, and the name of the fisherman. So right now, 123 species of sea cucumbers have been inputted into the database. And for next session, about the data collection of Oedikan village will be informed by my colleague Zul. Thank you very much, Mbak Indah, and thank you to all participants. Japesda started the data collection in Uwedikan in 2020, and in 2021 we start with data collection on sea cucumbers. In Japesda worked with 8 sea cucumbers fishermen in Uwedikan village, and only 4 of them are actively involved in data collection and catching the sea cucumbers in Uwedikan village. Next. In Uwedikan, the sea cucumbers farmers or fishermen are mostly from Bajo tribes, and these people are using this type of ship or this type of boat, perahu cadik, and they are using the fishing gear as you can see on the slides on the top right and the left sides. Ladung is made of wood with 1 meter length, and they use tin, thread, and kanja is made of bamboo or wood. It can be 1 to 2 meters, and it can be used to catch the sea cucumbers. So the people of Uwedikan can be said are still catching their sea cucumbers using very traditional fishing gear, or it's very sustainable. And they usually start catching at night. And this is the after harvest activities for the fishermen in Uwedikan. They usually looking for the sea cucumbers at night, starting at 6 p.m. depending on the weather. So they will start at 6 p.m. and they will go back home earlier if the sea weather is good. So it really depends on the weather at sea, and it depends it will also influence the yield they catch that night. And after harvest, they will put the sea cucumbers in a bucket, and in the morning, the wife or the mother would clean the sea cucumbers. It will take 1 to 1 and 30 minutes, depends on the harvest. And then they will mix the sea cucumbers with salt. It would take two to 30 minutes to cook the sea cucumbers, and then they will dry it up. The sea cucumbers depends on the weather again. It might take up to 1 week to dry it up, to sun dry the sea cucumbers. And during our data collection on the sea cucumber species, we've found different types of sea cucumbers. There are gamat sea cucumbers, gamma kasur, harido bintik. They call it also kalolo tripang, cerah merah, and also tripang koro. But we haven't found tripang koro. Some fishermen say that they have koro tripang, but rarely caught. But from our data collection, we've never found this type of tripang koro. And when the fishermen catch the tripang, they will sell it to a local trader, and it would take 30 to 40 minutes for the fisherman to go to this middleman. For gamakasur species, if they can properly sun dry the tripang, they can sell it up to 850,000 rupiah. And tripang gama or gama bunga can be sell at 500,000 rupiah, or around $30 per kilograms. And plain tripang is 280,000. And the price of tripang in Uwedikan is also influenced by the sun dried level of the tripang. And sometimes if the product is not properly dried, it would also influence the price, the selling price at the middleman. So usually the fishermen will try to get the best weather to sun dry their product. And the trader also claim that they got a very good product. That is why they offer a good price. Next. Okay, thank you very much, Zul. Thank you, Zul, for sharing a detailed information about the sea cucumbers aquaculture in Uwedikan village. And next, we hope there will be a shared technical assistance for octopus and sea cucumber species. And we also like to help the communities for closing on the sea cucumbers. And also, since our current data collection method is very traditional, we wish to build a mobile data collecting method using the tablets. So from the data input to visualization would take faster time. And also, since there are so many types of tripang species in local name, we hope we can work with the institution, research institution, to identify the name of this species. Thank you very much, Mbak Indah and Mas Zulkifli. So first, Harry was sharing information on aquaculture, and Mas Zulkifli and Mbak Indah have just talked to us about the capture. Next, we would like to hear a presentation from Pak Sigit. As I've mentioned before, he is one of the leading person in sea cucumbers aquaculture when he's still working in LIPI, and now he become the consultant for the company working in hatchery and sea cucumber aquaculture. Mas Sigit, the floor is yours.
Terima kasih Pak Didi. Saya minta izin share screen.
Thank you, Pak Dedi.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for everybody. I will try to present in English. So my presentation is on the Sandfish culture initiative in East Lombok, Indonesia. My name is Sigit. You can call me Sigit. So maybe I would like to show you where Indonesia and the island of Lombok. It's on the middle of the Indonesia, and the area that we conducted the culture is the eastern part of Lombok Island. So you can see in this Google map the eastern part of Lombok Island, and you can see the earth pond here on the right figure. So there the sea is almost about 500 about 1 kilometer from the earth pond. So it is quite close to the sea. The tidal current used is to fill and to empty the earth pond. The tidal in Indonesia is diurnal, although one tide is bigger than the other one. The annual tide range between minus 0.2 to 2.2 meters, meaning 2.4 meters annually. So this is the earth pond. The area of the company. I mean the company named Sejahtera Putra Kusuma, which own an area of 70,000 square meters of earth pond, divided in 34 earth pond, and 1,000. This is the hatchery. It's the 1,000 square meter hatchery. This is the setup of the hatchery. You can see the clean seawater reservoir with 2 spawning tanks and 42 rearing tank. It's 1 cube meter each, and we have 12 rack of settlement containers. Each containers is 40 liters, and then we have microalgae culture area. It's only 18 square meter, but we will expand it until 48 square meter in the future. This is for the storing area. So the tank is like this one. It's a cylindrical tank with outlet in the bottom. When you change the water, you just need to open the valve, and then the water will go out and go through the sieve. This is we use 35 until 250 micron. At this, we can dry the tanks for tanks at the same time, simultaneously. The rearing area is for auricularia, larvae to auricularia in the tank. Duration of the culture varied between 12 to 14 days. The total water change conducted every 2 days. We use only a single Cathosaurus muleri for the feeding. 500 milliliters at the beginning, up to 1 liter at the later stage. However, when we have a problem with culture of Chaetoceros mulleri, we use as well Chaetoceros calcitrans and Chaetoceros amami. The sufficient of feed on the larvae can be checked by observing the larvae, which is very transparent. The larvae transferred to settling container when they are 25% of larvae reach doliolaria stage. The settlement or settling area, we use containers like that, 40 liters of containers, a small one like this one. They are arranged in 9-meter long rack. Each rack can support either 108 or 144 containers. We rear the larvae until the goalie area until reaching juveniles of 10 millimeters. You can see the juveniles here on the figure on the picture on the right. Duration between 6 to 8 weeks. The density of doliolaria per container is 5,000. Harvesting 50 to 150 juveniles of 10 millimeter length. Settlement induced by addition of 1 millimeter mesh and about 15 or 20 Enhalus leaf is seagrass leaves. The feed consisted of Chaetoceros mulleri and Itzia for the first week, and then we add seagrass slurry afterward. This slurry is given as a complementary feed for these juveniles. The water was changed every week. So when the juvenile reaches 1 millimeter, we rear them in the pond using this kind of hapa. People usually use a rectangular hapa, but we use round hapa. This round hapa of 50 centimeters wide diameter is easier to handle, and there is no dead point that that can hide the juveniles. So the juveniles was are reared here until it reaches 10 gram seed. The density for at the beginning, I mean 10 millimeter juveniles is 250 individuals, and reduced until it reaches 10 gram seed. The cleaning and sorting was conducted fortnightly because there's a lot of competitor, such as this snail, black one, and there's some plant here that can trap the juveniles. So it is when the hapa is in the pond. Here's 10 to 20 millimeter juveniles. Sorry, and this bigger one until 5 to 7 centimeters. The growth of juveniles during 12-week rearing period that we experience is for the small one at an initial size of 1.2 gram. The final size is 12.34. The growth rate is 0.13, and the survival rate is 82%. For the bigger medium size, the growth rate is bigger, 14, with 77 survival rate. For the big juveniles, the growth rate is quite good, 0.15 gram per day. I'm sorry, it's still hari per day, and the survival rate is 93%. To grow juveniles, using the earthworm. We use the pen here. The size varied between 5 to 5 meter to 10 by 10 meters. I'm sorry, this is still in Indonesia as well. The growth rate of juveniles here at the 23rd July, 8 gram, and then it is going bigger at different experiment replication. Here, I would like to emphasize that the juveniles in the pen were hard to collect. We plan to use plastic cover earth pond like the one used in Madagascar. For the grow out from 50 gram until the harvest size of 350 grams, we can use either earth pond or in the sea. The company, the Sejahtera Putra Kusuma, plan to grow them in earth pond, and we will provide seed to the fishermen for grow out as well, but in the coastal area. Here's the summary of the hatchery. The spawning at the day 0, at day 0 to day 1 is the embryology, the embryogenesis. And from day 1 to day 12 is the larval, planktonic larvae life. And then at day 13 until 24 is the settlement time. And day 24 to 60 is the benthic life of the juveniles.
2 menit lagi ya, Mas Putro.
Yes, up to 1.
2 more minutes.
Yes, sorry. Yes, this is the rack that we use, and when it reaches 4 months, it's about 10 gram, and then 9 centimeter at 6 months, and we can harvest at 14 months old. So this is the target of the production. You can see the broodstock induced, the broodstock spawn, produced, and then the plan is about 90,000 harvested trepang per month. And this is the rate spawning, hatching, or survival. The overall harvest, the overall rates from egg until harvest is 0.19%. It is still very low. There is a big opportunity to improve this step. So as I mentioned before, there's the company possess 70,000 square meter of earth pond for the hatchery, and the broodstock is about 15,000, and the area for grow out is about 50,000 square meter. That can help 50,000 sandfish per year. So there will be 150,000 of seed that will be transferred to the fishermen to be grown out by fishermen. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pak Sigit, ladies and gentlemen.
Meminta Pak Putro untuk mempresentasikan.
So we are requesting Pak Sigit to one of the key in aquaculture is the availability of the juvenile or the hatchery in order to ensure a sustainable aquaculture and also to ensure restocking. And I think this is also the same case with our colleague, our friends in Madagascar, to ensure the sustainability of sandfish aquaculture. And luckily in Indonesia, in Lombok, actually one of these company have tried to ensure the sustainability of the stock. And next would be my presentation, because I would be speaking from my experience in this Trepang management as well. Thank you very much, Mas Putro.
Tadinya saya ingin bicara khusus tentang
I would like to talk about the aquaculture today, but
untuk acara
by
dengan Trepang.
fisheries and marine of Indonesia in Trepang management. So now I would like to include this Trepang management in our discussion today. This would be the outline of my presentation. If in Madagascar, the community are successful with their aquaculture because it has been decades project, while our project in Lombok is still in the tryout level. We have just started this project a couple of years ago, and it's also not sustainable project as well. We started at 2014, and then we resumed back in 2018 to 2019. And we now learning on how to integrate the Trepang management with a Madagascar community-based method. So I will skip this, but in general, this is an introduction. Trepang is very important, but it's overexploited in the wilderness. And if we let it overexploited, the fishermen would be threatened because they would need to go in further danger if they want to capture the sea cucumbers, because they will need to dive deeper and to go to a more dangerous area. This is the tryout community-based aquaculture in Lombok, close with the location that has been developed by Pak Putro and his colleague, where they developed the hatchery for sandfish aquaculture. So this is the location with total area of 25 hectare. And ecosystem-wise, of course, this area is appropriate for the aquaculture. We call this as a community base because the objective is to hand it over to the community, and community is working in this project with our assistants, the team who have the experience in hatchery and aquaculture business in Indonesia. So this is no longer on research level. So we have started the discussion with the community whether they are interested to be involved in this project, and the community will discuss among themselves how to develop this into a group work and to choose the area. And we start the training to the community, and we start with the construction. So these are some of the construction pictures from the aquaculture pond. So these are some pictures from the seed distribution and monitoring, and how the community is transferring the juvenile to the coastal pond that have been prepared for this sea cucumbers. And the monitoring is conducted by LIPI, not BRAIN. And we ask the community to update after 3 weeks whether the juvenile is growing well, but some also escapes from the bottom net, and some might be consumed by the predator. And after 3 months, we revisit the locate the site, and we do a selected harvest for the trepang, and the selected harvest also used for restock and broodstock for our colleague in the laboratory, but the rest will be kept by the community for um, to be sold to the market. This is the second round of the tryout. So we actually expect the survival rate a little more than 50% for the juvenile, but we expect 70%, but in reality, the survival rate is a little more than 50%, um, and ready for harvest by community. So those are the level of the research and the tryout that have been in regards to this trepang management and aquaculture. So what is our observation after this project implementation in the past 2 years? So we have found out that we still need more training and capacity building for all the people in the communities. So we need more training and practices. And apparently, the group activities for this apparently not economically stimulating for the fishermen. So if revenue from the harvest have to be split it in the group, and the yield will be smaller if it's in a group. So we start to consider whether we should develop smaller group, or maybe just in at the household level, even though we are still working with the community-based method, including, and another issue is with the seedlings, too small because only LIPI is producing the seed. And now we have this issue addressed because one company have started investing in hatchery, and they've also prepared these seedlings to be kept by the fishermen and also by the other stakeholder who are interested, and the government can provide some kind of loan and also technical assistance, and also repurchase the seedlings that have been maintained by the community. So that is in regard to aquaculture. Now I would like to talk about the integrating trepang in community-based coastal management. I would like to start from the experience in Maluku and Papua. In Maluku and Papua, the the community know the communal tenure. So not everyone can access the coastal area because they need to get the license from the chieftain. And in that coastal management, the communal territory, there is a zonation. In this indigenous area or in this community area, the people is implementing what they call as SASI. This is systems of beliefs in the context of aquaculture management or in marine conservation. This systems is rules and rituals pertaining to temporal prohibitions and on use of a particular resource or territory. So the people can only catch when the SASI is open and should be closed when the SASI is closed. The main elements of SASI, the object of SASI can be trochus, niloticus, and can be tripang. So this community-based practice can be used as an instrument for this tripang management. The Indonesia locally managed area, colleague from Indonesia locally managed area, have tried to upgrade the CCM and the outcomes by discussing with this community and introducing new information for the community, including the socialization and also adding new element. For instance, the usually SASI is temporarily opened and closed, but after the discussion among the community, they agree to decide some areas as the no-take zone. They still call it as the SASI, but this is a permanent SASI. They will never open this area, the SASI area, and only allow the capture in other area. So this red area is no-take zone. They still use SASI terms, but this is a permanent no-take zone. So sea cucumbers capture activities is only allowed outside this no-take zone. From their evaluation in 2003 until 2019, on the sea cucumbers availability, they found out that with this system, the tripang management can be sustainable. From the statistical calculation, it's shown that in the mid-difference standard, we can conclude that the sea cucumbers in that area is already in a sustainable level. This is in Banda Island after the SASI implementation on capture or the capture or the harvest of sea cucumbers is increasing. And of course, this is also contributing in the development or recovery of coral reef status. This, as we can see, the coral reef situation is getting better from year to year. This community belief system has been implemented in many areas in Indonesia, starting from Aceh to Maluku and Papua. So the potential in implementing, so to include tripang management with a community-based system is very possible in Indonesia. So this is my concluding remarks. Of course, tripang management and aquaculture are seriously needed in Indonesia. Learning from Harry's presentation because it has high value and its function and since it's already overexploited. And in Indonesia, we have started with the aquaculture, even though we just started with the very early stage. As I've said, not all the projects are successful because this is still a very early stage. So we need more project development using a systematic or holistic program method. Tripang management have been part of traditional management and community-based management. And with this situation, we can actually improve the connectivity and sustainability of tripang management. And I also believe that our discussion, even though most of the presentations are shared by Indonesian counterparts, but the presentation from Madagascar by Harry has give us a lesson from this discussion. Indonesia can learn and take an example from the experience of our friends in Madagascar in Trepang aquaculture, because it's very high value and it's very potential. And I do hope that the discussion today can reconnect us from Indonesia to our colleague in Madagascar, because as we all know, historically, that these two countries are connected. So hopefully we can reconnect and we can live up to the history with Madagascar once again. Thank you very much. I think that will be all in our discussion. So basically, we would like to try in this webinar, we would like to initiate, we want to promote sea cucumbers or sandfish aquaculture in Indonesia, learning from the experience of Madagascar because they are successful in their sandfish aquaculture. So now let's try to have a discussion. I would like to invite Ms. Jim Fox to share some of his comment in this Trepang management and aquaculture in Indonesia and also in Madagascar. Pak Jim, the floor is yours.
Turn me on.
Yeah.
Belum buka.
Okay, I can hear you. You can start speaking. I'll see what can I do to membuka videonya ya.
All right, I will use two languages. I will use Indonesian and English. First of all, to Harry in Madagascar, I want to thank you for such a clear and interesting presentation. I think it is very useful to see how other cultures are able to adapt to cultivation of trepang. All of the presentations, semua presentasinya sebenarnya menarik sekali. Dan
all the presentation actually are very interesting, and I will try to make it. I will try to make a short presentation because I do have one question. As we all know, many fishermen or fisher household are having a seagrass management. So is it possible to mix two aquaculture? Is there a system to continue the seagrass aquaculture, but mix it or combine it with the sea cucumbers aquaculture? There is an issue. The seagrass aquaculture always produce waste, and this could be a problem for everyone involved in seagrass aquaculture. If we can combine the sea cucumbers with seagrass aquaculture, maybe the water would be clearer, would be cleaner, and both species can be harvested at time. Like if you can harvest the seagrass, the seaweed every 2 months or 2.5 months, while waiting for 12 months. In one area in eastern Indonesia, we need to start combining the seaweed aquaculture to learn whether this opportunity is possible.
Okay, thank you, Pak. Okay, so Pak J posed one, I think, important question. So that might be for Harry and Pak Sigit ya. Technical for aquaculture practices. Jadi pertanyaannya adalah apakah mungkin
so the question is whether it's possible to combine
Trepang dengan budidaya rumput laut.
sea cucumbers aquaculture with the seaweed aquacultures? Harry, if you have any idea?
Harry,
Thank you.
perhaps you
Yeah, I can answer this question. So far, we don't mix seaweed aquaculture and sunfish aquaculture because for seaweed aquaculture, the cycle is really short, like 45 days. And we need to do many works during these 45 days. And if we do a sunfish farm, even if it's the seaweed aquaculture, we risk to handle or trample the sunfish. So it is too risky, so we don't mix both. What we do is we have a buffer zone around the sunfish farm, and inside the buffer zone or outside the buffer zone, we also do seaweed aquaculture.
So it is possible, but you cannot use it in the same beds.
Yeah, exactly. We don't want the sunfish to be trampled.
No,
Step
I
over.
understand that. It's still possible to combine them, but separate beds, something like that.
Yeah.
Because the big problem with growing seaweed here is this disease. I don't know what the technical name for it is, ice. And it usually comes from over cultivation in dirty water without enough. In other words, it is almost a recurrent disease in seaweed farming. And if we eliminate that to some extent, obtain a immediate income from seaweed, and then the longer income from Trepang, you might have a good combination. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth trying.
Yeah, I think it's worth trying, but for us, for sunfish farming, we tried to mix the different cohorts. So we stock different cohorts in different frequency. So after the first cycle, where we have to wait for almost 1 year to have the first harvest, after the first harvest, we can have harvest each 2 months or each quarter. That's how we deal with having steady income.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Okay, thank you Pak Jim and Harry. Pak Sigit ingin menambahkan? There's a request from participant actually if our faces can appear in the screen as well. I think some of you can manage to open your video if possible. Thank you.
Can I add, Pak?
Ya, silakan.
Yes, I believe that Pak Harry talked about the possibility of it is that not matching of Trepang culture and the seaweed because it is on the intertidal area. But if it is done in deeper area where the seaweed culture is done using buoy, I think it can be done. So in the bottom we culture the sea cucumber, and the upper layer we culture the seaweed. But as for the ice, I believe it is kind of bacteria that grow among the seaweed. So if the water flow is good, I think it can be reduced. Perhaps another possibility is a kind of IMTA, integrated multi-trophic aquaculture. So maybe we can try to culture the seaweed, Trepang, and the kind of bivalve as well to reduce the phytoplankton and perhaps the bacteria. This, I think my idea. Thank you, Pak Didi.
Oke, Mas Sigit boleh saya teruskan. Di kedalaman berapa yang mungkin dilakukan memang tripang sehingga bisa dikomunikasikan dengan
Mas Sigit,
budidaya?
can you please inform how, in what depth we can combine the sea cucumbers?
We can do the integrated multi-tropical aquaculture.
Oke, maksud saya kalau untuk kombinasi tripang dengan,
I mean, if we want to combine the sunfish with the seaweed, I mean, we need to have high water level. So working on the seaweed, we are not trampling on the seabeds. Yes, so the depth should be more than the tidal. So even though it's a low tide, the height is still above 50 centimeters or 1 meter. Thank you very much, Mas Sigit, Pak Jim, and Hedy. In the chat, we have a question whether the no-take zone is put as a permanent zone. Can we still call it a SASI? So the question is to me. So I would say that that is the reality, the situation. This is why I call it as an upgrading of traditional resource management. We have input from modern knowledge, but we use the input from the community. They're still using the term SASI, but they decide to expand the understanding. Their understanding about SASI is no longer temporary prohibitions, just like their current experience. So they still use the term SASI. Or they call it as a core area. Thank you very much for the question. We also have question from Dedi Haryadi. It's from from Pertamina Tual, and we are currently working on sea cucumbers program in Maluku, and we are currently hatching, and we also have culture for the juvenile and the seed of sunfish. We work with IPB. The question is, can we have a discussion to start a cooperation in the sea cucumbers aquaculture? So the answer would be yes, of course. I will share you contact. I've made a small group. I hope this group can be expanded for our discussion. This group is in the WhatsApp group, and this webinar actually coming from the initiative in that discussion group. And another question from YRCID, currently assisting the community in Pangkep for small-scale sunfish aquaculture. The question is on the utilization. His question is, what is the main variable that we need to consider in small-scale community-based sunfish aquaculture? Maybe Harry and Mas Sigit or Mbak Ida, would you like to answer this question? What are the critical variables or the critical factors that we need to consider in developing a small-scale community-based sunfish aquaculture?
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, when developing the sun farming activity with communities, first of all, as I mentioned before, we need to involve the community beforehand to have green light. So that's one thing. We also need to have a suitable habitat. We need to have a good quality of sediment. For example, for us in the southwest of Madagascar, we have a sediment depth of 15 centimeter. That's the depth, minimum depth. So we also have habitat which is not next to a river because some fish doesn't like this. So I think we need to consider all these technical parameters, but of course we need to involve the community. And in the southwest of Madagascar, where we are working, our community is part of a big MPA, Marine Protected Area. So they are member of the association for this MPA. So they know all the management measures, all the environmental measures, etc. So that's also one thing to be considered. And lastly, we need to secure funding because it is not an easy activity. It is really complex. We need to deal with the community. We need to deal with the technicality and the environment, etc. So we need to secure funding until the activity becomes viable. So yeah, that's 3 main points, I think, but there are other points also. Hope to answer the question.
Thank you, Harry. Just could you add a little more information on how long did it take in your activities, your cases in Madagascar to have the projects, result something that makes communities particularly happy and stimulated to do the work?
Yeah, really good question. I think at least we need 3 years to have good results. As I said, we need at least 12 months, 1 year to have a first harvest. Yeah. So during these 12 months, we need to discuss with the community and say to them that the harvest will happen. 12 months is really long. But once we have the first harvest, the community see that it is working. And that's why I said minimum 3 years. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Harry. Mas Sigit, Mas Putur ingin menambahkan?
Tidak, kayaknya Pak Heri sudah menjelaskan.
I think Harry have explained it better than me because they have better experience than us in Lombok. But Indah, do you have anything to add? No, thank you very much, sir, because we are mostly working on community-based management, while for the aquaculture, we have not started yet. But this is quite interesting for us because we've just started with sea cucumbers. So we hope in the future, Pak Dedi can connect us with the expert from LIPI or BRIN to identify the species of sea cucumbers. Thank you very much. Now I would like to continue to the next question. We have question from Ibu Andriani Srinastiti. Please allow me to ask question about the size of sea cucumbers. At the size of 40 to 150 gram, is it considered as seedlings or juvenile? Maybe Mas Sigit can help to answer this question.
Masih mute, Mas Sigit. Mas Putro.
Ya, jadi ukuran itu tergantung dari penyebutan, tergantung
So
dari
the size depend on the growth of the size of the gonad. Once the gonad is growing, then it can be considered as stock or juvenile, but it's really varied. Sometimes 70 to 80 grams is mature.
seperti itu.
Oke, terima kasih. Mudah-mudahan itu menjawab
Thank you. So I hope that answers the question.
Saya kira pertanyaan-pertanyaan utama
The main questions from
question and answers
the Q&A session in the apps have been answered, except for one. That is the invitation to collaborate. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I have mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, this discussion is
memulai terbentuknya atau memulai terjadinya komunikasi
aimed to start a communication to connect
memiliki concern pada
different stakeholders
concern
who have a
setidaknya
concern on
aspeknya concern
this
pengolahan
sea
keseluruhan
cucumbers or sandfish aquaculture, whether it's management, context, or the aquaculture. And as
itu melakukan diskusi yang sedang pada intinya mereka sedang merencanakan untuk membuat mata jalan.
the Ministry of Fisheries,
Oleh mereka itu
Marine and Fisheries actually have
observasi.
uh,
Jadi saya mengajak
is currently developing a glossarium or a terminologies, and I've discussed with them, and they have planned to start.
semua hal yang
They have planned to start
Pak Jim ingin menambahkan sesuatu
a movement for this aquaculture. Pak James, maybe you would like to say something?
Yes, I want to ask Harry and Pak Sigit another question. We're always talking about Sabra and the hatchery of Sabra, but if we really wanted to restore the ecology of reefs, we need more than one kind of trepang. Is there any work being done now on hatching and developing other species of trepang?
Is that it, Pak Jim?
Yeah. Thanks, James, for this question. What I know is that our commercial partner who owns the hatchery is doing some experimentation on Holoturia lesoni, another tropical species. But why we choose Scabra? Because it is the most valuable tropical species in the market. So that's why we choose this
I understand
species.
it.
Thanks.
But the Chinese market values a whole range of other trepang, and the other trepang are all being fished out. So we have some need to restore other varieties of trepang.
Yeah. I think if a hatchery is dedicated to the repopulation of the environment, I think a kind of hatchery which is producing different kind of species of sea cucumber will be the solution.
Mas Sigit mau menambahkan?
Ya, setahu saya, sepanjang pengetahuan saya masih belum ada
In my knowledge, there is no research or work to identify different species of sea cucumbers in coral reef area. Most of the species used is Aurelia scabra, and in some area they've started with Stipocus, but just of Stipocus.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Ada pertanyaan di
We have another question in question and answer. Do we have any restocking?
Harry in Madagascar, are you also doing some restocking?
Harry in Madagascar, do you also do restocking activities in Madagascar?
So far, we didn't do restocking. What we assume is that when we grow sea cucumber inside our pens, we think that the spillover effect will do the repopulation. Because inside the pens, the sea cucumbers.
Yeah. Okay. ada lagi yang ingin menambahkan? Kalau tidak, saya ingin meminta Harry. Harry, could you give a kind of closing remark, both in terms of aquaculture? You have heard, yeah, some of our experience here. What do you think, and how is there any possibilities that we can, work together in the future or something like that? Thank you.
Yes, of course. I will be happy to reconnect as needed. Yeah.
Oke. Jadi teman-teman, terima kasih. Thank you, Harry. So teman-teman dari Indonesia, teman-teman dari Madagaskar, siap untuk
dear participants, Harry and the colleague from Madagascar are ready to connect with us and to develop the potential on collaboration. And as I believe, we hope this webinar could link us to colleague from Madagascar and from the other part of the world who have more experience and advanced experience in successfully developing community base of sunfish aquaculture that already include their success in hatchery and also successfully community in sunfish aquaculture. Maybe Pak Sigit would like to say anything for the closing. Thank you, Pak Dedi. That's a good thing for community development. One of the ways through this Trepang aquaculture, and we need to learn from Madagascar's experience, and we also need to learn from the other area. Thank you very much, Mas Sigit, Mbak Indah, or Mas Zuli. Maybe from Zul, because I've already shared my point. Halo Mbak Indah, so in Wedikan, we've just started with the sea cucumbers data collection. So we have a local, group which we have trained for the data collection, and the sea cucumbers capture area is also close with the delta of the river. And it's interesting with what Harry said about Trepang and the seaweed as well. So in Wedikan, we do see the potential when the temporary SASI, or when the temporary prohibition is implemented for the octopus. Community have considered about the same systems to be implemented for the sea cucumbers, because sea cucumbers has been considered as the second source of income for the fishermen in Wedikan Village. Thank you very much for your remarks, Mas Zulkifli. And I think close our event today. And before we close this webinar, I would like to express my appreciation to some individual who have supported this meeting. First one is Masumi Gutka. She is facilitating our Zoom room, and Jenny Oates of Blue Ventures from the UK. Thank you very much for your support. And of course, as a UK-based organization, thank you very much to all presenters, to Mbak Indah, Zulkifli, to Harry, thank you very much, Mas Sigit, and to all the participants, and also Pak James, thank you for taking your time. It's quite late now in Canberra, I believe. Thank you to all participants. I think there is technical issue because it seems that you can only see my face on your Zoom screen. And it's my mistake because I have difficulties to manage the Zoom room. Thank you very much. I have put my contact number in the chat, and I hope colleague who wish to continue our discussion after this Zoom meeting do contact me, and we can continue our discussion in the WhatsApp group or in other discussion forum. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and good morning for colleague from Madagascar and UK, and good evening to Pak James in Canberra. That will be all. Thank you very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.